using a Lee Super 24 jig along with an Isoloc template, the 124B pattern, and we're going to be using this to cut our tailboards and our pin boards to assemble what I'm going to make for our family room are some light sconces. With that, the front of the sconce will also have a hand-cut pattern that I'll be inlaying crushed turquoise with epoxy, and then finally we'll be putting in the electrical components for the light, and then once that's done we'll have a completed light sconce with a very nice pattern that's cut for the joinery. And then once that's done, you'll be able to see how this is completed, and hopefully you'll like to make one yourself. So with that, let's get going, and I'll show you how to make the first cuts for the tailboards and then the pin boards. Okay? So we have the Lee 24 Super Jig, also with the Isoloc 124B template that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using this side of the template, which I think they call the ellipse pattern. This is called, I think, bear ears for this one, but I'll be using this pattern here. I also have a VRS vacuum system for the front of the jig, which is, I highly recommend getting one of these because it gets to be really, really messy, but with this vacuum apparatus that's attached to the garage shop vacuum, it takes care of pretty much about 98% of the mess. So it's a really, really good piece of equipment, and it's magnetically adhered to the front of the jig, so it's nice and versatile and very easy to remove. So with this, we're going to be cutting the template, the tailboards and the pin boards with this design pattern. I have over here an example of the designs that we're going to cut with this template. So here are the tailboards, or the tail pattern, and then this is going to be the pin boards that we're going to be using for the sides of the sconce. So this board actually has both sides to it. This is not how the completed board will look for each one. This is how it's going to look for a completed board for one side of the light sconce. Okay, so we'll get going on this one right now, and I'll show you how to cut these using the Isoloc template for one side of the light sconce. There we go. Sorry, I was a little bit stuck. Okay, so we already have a board underneath here that's going to be our guide board front. It's here so we can align our top board here to come in and align so we know it's completely straight once we have this board set in place. So let me go ahead and slide this board up front. There we go. Now the board's completely lined up with the board that is attached to the front, so we know we have a nice clean straight edge to cut from as our guide. Now we're going to lock down the template in place. And now we're going to clamp our top board down to give it so we know it's nice and flush with the surface here. There we go. Now we're ready to get our router. The nice thing about this vacuum system is that it basically slides. It has a nice little spring action here for holding on to the router. Set the router in between. And now we can just go along the pattern and vacuum up any of the debris that comes out from the router. So you can see here, once we follow the pattern, we're going to make our first pass of cuts. We're going to go all the way across the first time, and then we're going to come back in and do our cleanup cuts. As you can see here, there's some edges left that we need to cut. So normally it takes about 2 passes to do on your Isoloc template to make sure it's nice and clean and nice and smooth, so we have really nice fit of our joinery. Here, and we can see, and I did 2 full passes. of the template and a little cleanup spot, but overall looks pretty good. So you can see we finished our board and it looks real good. I cleaned it up a little bit. Okay, so but that's the I think they call these the tails, the tail boards. Okay, so those are complete for the Sconce, but I routed this, the pin boards, and this is done on the vertical axis here instead of the horizontal one. So let me unclip this and show you the difference. Here are our pin boards. So now we have our mating pair of our tails and our pin boards, okay? And this will be our and both boards I have indicated for the inside of the box, but when we route these are facing outwards, okay? So everything's uniform, it'll match up, and they fit really nice, okay? So once I get this all completed, finished up, I get my design for my front of my box, and I'll show you what that will be, and we'll carve it out, and then we'll get our turquoise crushed from, I get my turquoise from a mine in Arizona, in Kingman. They sell scraps, and then I break that down into small bits, and then I'll fill it in with epoxy, and we'll sand it down and make it look real nice. Finished all of our tail boards and pin boards. I'm going to have my design that I chose, that I've used for other light sconces within our house, so we're going to keep it uniform. And this is the pattern that I'm using for our Southwest design. So I have it taped up, I have it aligned to the middle of the sides and also the ends. So I'm going to trace around this, and once I get my design traced, I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to be cutting the design out. Now, first of all, you have to come in with a razor, and you have to, once your lines are established, you're going to come in with a razor blade and cut your line all the way and make your own design. And then you can come in with a chisel tool and start chiseling away just the ends to make sure you don't get any additional past that design. So once you have that done, about 1/4 of an inch all the way around your pattern, you're going to come in with a router, and you're going to route the rest of this design out. So now I'm starting to fill up the pattern here with crushed turquoise. So my method, what I like to do, since this is going to take a lot of turquoise, I didn't route and cut the design pattern too deep, just a little bit. So that means my larger chips here need to be broken down into a little bit finer chips so they'll fit and not waste too much. And so I made this so I can crush them into the size that I want, and then I can give a visual and see how many more times that I need to hit the turquoise. This is actually a pretty soft stone. And that way, then I can come back in and start filling it up. And so I'll continue this until I get it pretty much full all the way through, so you can't see any of the wood underneath the turquoise. And then I'll make sure that's the way I like it to be, the different size chips everywhere, and then I'll start laying in the epoxy. Then it should take about a day or so to set up, and then I'll come back in and sand it down. So we have both of our finished assembled light sconces, and I haven't stained these yet, but you'll be able to see the nice pattern once the stain goes into the crevices here, and it'll come out really nice, and you'll be able to see the nice ellipse pattern. And we have the crushed turquoise that's been sanded down nice and smooth. Looks really good. The inside of the light box has a piece of reflective metal here where the inside of the light hardware will go. And now we have our two really nice crushed turquoise with really cool joinery. Light sconces ready to go. Get stained a little bit and put them up on the wall. And there you go. A lot of work goes into these, but once they're completed, they look fantastic.